tonight, okay? And then seek help from professionals. When we do, for example, premarital counseling, we try to look if there is probably a trauma that happened in your life which may make you afraid to love. You know there are many people who are afraid to love because something happened in their lives. And that trauma still unconsciously lingers on. And when somebody wants to express love to them, they get scared. If a young man tells you, I love you, you run away. You're scared. It could be out of some trauma. If you don't like him, it's another matter, but you can delight on the fact that somebody loves you, isn't it? It's something good. So, compliment. Thank you. And then move to the next point that maybe we will have to discuss this further. You know, but do not be unnecessarily rude for someone who is looking for a wife. He's not doing anything wrong, but suddenly become rude. Why? Maybe the background, your background has a problem somewhere. Okay? So we look at these things in premarital counseling, and if we see there is such, we normally advise that you see a professional. There are, I think, the science of psychology has developed very well, and they are able to help a lot of people who have gone through traumatic situations. Now, the other point is you can seek for a support network. HIV/AIDS, for example, is a good example. That there would be some centers that support people like that. There could be also those who are affected, who have formed a group, and they encourage one another, you know. And I'm just mentioning about HIV/AIDS, it's the example that comes to mind. But as a church, we should have many such support groups. We should have a support group for singles, okay? We should have a support group, you know, for people with alcoholic problems. The problem with Adventists is the moment you say I have alcohol problems, you're already looked at with funny eyes. Whether or not your case should not be discussed in the church hall. But alcohol is a serious enslaving habit. And in order for people to break out of that, they need a lot of support. And where else can they get such support than in the church? But it's the same church that stigmatizes them and want to apply punitive measures. So can we sober up and try to act differently and become a help that the church should be in the society? So support networks, we need them. Now, the general approach to any problem would be, one, identify the problem. As I said, if you don't know you have a problem, it will never be solved. Two, as we said, analyze the problem, understand more about it, what causes it. If you persist on it, you know what will happen. Some people, and not actually some people, everybody starts a habit small way. Even the worst drunkard, the first time they tested alcohol, they found it bitter. And probably never tested it for the next several few days. But they found themselves back. And little by little, they became So read about these, how different habits can enslave people. There is a habit that I can't mention here, but there is a habit that if you start it, it will be almost impossible. Almost. There is nothing impossible with Jesus, but there are some habits that can be almost impossible to be resolved later on in life if you indulge in them now in your youthful time. And then plan how you are going to tackle the problem. And then implement your plan. Have measures to assess how you are faring as you go along. And that is the evaluation. And provide remedies as may be needed. So for all the youth problems, the approach is the same. Understand, read books, attend seminars, talk with fellow youth, meet parents, discuss with professionals. Okay? Set appropriate boundaries, defining acceptable and unacceptable limits. And this is very important. Even when you don't have a problem. You don't have drinking problem. But it might be a good idea. You know that people like to drink from 7 onwards. So it might be a good idea you set boundaries. That at 7, you must be home. And if you set that, apart from being a good habit, but it will also prevent you from becoming indulgent in alcohol. Okay? Define and enforce consequences. Now, here is where involving parents becomes very important. Because you want to have consequences once you cross boundaries. And for parents, this presentation is both for the youth and parents. Parents, establish boundaries for your youth before problems start. Okay? You can only visit your friends once a week. During the week, after all, God says that 6 days shall thou labor. It's a commandment. Labor. 6 days. Not to go around visiting and so. Okay? So it says 6 days you will labor. 1 day to visit friends. And that's Sabbath. And when you visit them, you talk to them about Christ. Not about soccer, Manchester United and whatever. Define and enforce consequences. God has done that, isn't it? God has set boundaries. And God has told us the consequences of crossing those boundaries. Even before the 10 Commandments were introduced, He did the same to Adam. He said that eat everything. You are free. But this tree, there is a boundary. And did He explain the consequence? He did. The day you shall eat, what will happen? You shall die. So we see clearly that it's spiritual to set boundaries and consequences. Even when it comes to your children's performance. And as we said before, match performance with your children's ability. They are not all the same. So if one is gifted in physical science, demand more of that one. That for you, physical science, I want an A. For you, physical education, I want an A. match the abilities of the students with with your children. Okay? Now, after you have done that, review if consequences are working. It's possible the consequence is too light, and the joy of tracing the boundaries is greater. Somebody sees the joy of drinking beer with friends much better than one straw. If you say the day I find you drinking one straw, the person balances one straw and the joy with my friends. I will go with my friends and face one straw. So if one straw doesn't work, make it 10. Increase it so that it will have the required effect. Okay?